Hey, welcome back to the Infamous Podcast. This is Brian.
This is Darryl.
And special guest, who are you?
I'm Cousin Kenny.
Welcome back. It's been like 2 years since you've been on.
Is it? I mean,
maybe more.
It feels like longer than that.
Maybe it is longer than that. Welcome back. We love having you.
Thank you.
Was the last time you were on? I think the last time you were on was when we were at Fretboard.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
The live show.
Oh, that was 21.
So it's been 4 years. Well, it's funny you're here because like our 10-year anniversary is next week.
Oh, congrats!
So, I was thinking about that today, and I was like, "Holy crap! You've been on more than any other guest." Which
kind of wild
is great because you're my favorite guest. And the reason Kenny is on, we're talking about Superman Legacy today. And the reason Kenny is on is I read his post on Facebook, and I'll let him talk about his experience seeing the movie. But it is really different than my experience and thoughts on the movie. And I was like, Darryl and I are relatively on the same page. And I was like, you know what? I want to talk to somebody who actually really liked it. And like have that conversation, and you called for that conversation in your post, so I figured you'd be happy to do that. But
yeah.
So anyway, real quick, Darryl, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How's everybody?
Doing well.
I was just trying to finish up watching Superman Returns, but I have like 15 minutes left on that.
Okay. All right.
On my 4K TV,
nice.
My new one.
Your new 4K TV. That's great. And then, Kenny, how are you? And then just for a refresher, remind everyone who you are. The international man of mystery that you are.
Right. I'm good. I'm rocking and rolling, enjoying a day off. I am Kenny, also known as Cousin Kenny, known by a lot of people for my years of association with Roma Collectibles, and then for the last however many years, 6 or 7 years, managing the toy department out of Fairfield, Ohio.
Yeah.
And for listeners of the show, probably I would imagine most famous for the Family Matters More episode.
Yes,
but other episodes too.
The Family Matters More is legit my second favorite episode ever.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
Of any podcast. Because it was
we
so
need to
ridiculous.
Beam it into space for the aliens.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, we should. Let's. I'll just get. You know what I'll do is I'll get a ham radio and I'll just point it out towards space and like hope it makes it. I don't think that's the way it works, but anyway, we'll sneak it onto a SpaceX ship. How about that?
That works as long as the extraterrestrials get to hear it.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, if Elon listens to it, then an extraterrestrial definitely heard it.
Right, and he's got the money. He might greenlight the material in the episode.
That would be amazing. With the Die Hard crossover and everything. Anyway, I don't even remember what episode that was, but if you guys go back and go to the website, just to type in Family Matters More, it'll show up. It was probably like 7, 8 years ago at least.
I mean, I would think, it had to have been like 16, 17, 18, something like that.
Whenever Fuller House came out, that's what spurred it.
Yeah.
So, Darryl, did you ever listen to that one?
I'm trying to think if I did. I mean, that's a long time ago.
We reimagined Family Matters in the vein of Fuller House and got everybody caught up on what was happening with Steve and the gang.
Yeah,
I can't say that I remember that one.
You should go back and listen to it. It was pretty epic.
It was a wild ride.
We were having fun, and like obviously like Aaron isn't with us anymore. I definitely think about him a lot. I love that guy. He was, just a good friend, and I definitely, I know you miss him, so.
Oh yeah, but there's I actually went back. Part of the reason that episode was on my mind is I did go back and listen to it at one point in the last couple months, just
nice.
it's nice to have, some time capsules of your loved ones via podcast and whatnot.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I've got, God, hours of him between the different Ohio Toy and Comic shows and you guys coming on and him coming on just randomly and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely good to have that. I'm glad I have that little time capsule for you.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that.
I'll go through and I'll grab all those episodes and I'll throw them into a Dropbox folder and I'll send you the link.
Okay.
So
awesome, I appreciate that.
hell yeah! All right, do we want to talk about Superman now?
I mean, now's the time, right?
All right. So Darryl and I did the Amazon Prime screenings to see it on Tuesday, the 8th, which was yesterday as of recording. Kenny, talk about how you got to see it because your story was kind of fun.
Yeah. So this company, surprise, surprise, they do like experiential events kind of thing, and they reached out to the store, the toy department, wanting to know if we were interested in a handful of tickets to see a screening of it on an OmniMax screen at the Cincy Museum Center at Union Terminal, which, for those who don't know, is what Super Friends, the Young Justice, and the Crisis TV show, or not TV show, but the Crisis animated movies.
Well, it was in the Crisis event crossover. Union Terminal was in there on the Arrowverse.
Yeah. So and it's in the movie, the Superman movie. Skipping ahead. I don't know how spoilery.
We're definitely going to spoil this because I can't talk about this without spoiling it.
Okay, so not only was the exterior in there, but also they ended up using the interior, the lobby for the scene, and so that was super cool. So I also saw it last night, probably around the same time you guys did.
Yeah. All right. So for everyone out there, this is James Gunn's reboot of the Man of Steel, Superman. It stars David Corenswet as Superman, Clark Kent, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, or Brosnahan, sorry, as Lois Lane. You might remember her as Mrs. Maisel, one of Amazon's best shows they ever did. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, Isabela Merced as Hawkgirl, very strange-looking Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner Green Lantern, Edie Gathegi, is that how you say his last name? As Mr. Terrific, and then Skyler Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen. I gotta say, just real quick, Jimmy Olsen was my favorite character in the movie. So, and when we get down to the rating at the end, Kenny, you'll see why. But
I saw that in the notes.
Oh, okay. So, but yeah, so the movie just kind of starts, which it's actually one of the things that I liked. We got this lived-in universe from the jump. It's not an origin story. We're not learning, this baby was shot from a dying planet with dinosaurs that people fly. Yet there's a next level spaceship that you can leave the planet on. What did you guys think about how this kicked off, given the fact that we saw all of that in the trailer?
I didn't mind that part of it. I mean, I like the whole media race type of things, especially it really works for TV shows to get, kind of jumpstart things. But I thought that was fine. It gets you right in the action. Again, it's like Batman. We don't need to see another origin story. So just from the start, just the start itself of being in the middle of things, I had no problem with. I actually liked that we were it's a little jarring, but that's a good thing, I think, because it perks you up. You're like, okay, this is starting. Although, unfortunately, like I said, I saw that scene. I really wish there was stuff I did not see.
Right.
Just because going in without knowing anything, without seeing anything, would have been better for me if I would have just come in and not known that. Yeah. But yeah, I like that. I like the start.
Yeah. Cool. Kenny, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a pretty solid opener. I think that we get so many of these, like the superhero movie that, it has to start from the beginning. And I like that, they trust the audience enough to give us a couple lines that are just we're in a lived-in universe, we're in a lived-in whatever, we're picking up the story and we're going. I didn't necessarily need like the 20 minutes extra of the slow buildup of the hammer attacking the city or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, like, we're up and rolling. It surprised me probably in a good way that like half the trailer was from the first like 20 minutes of the movie instead of this thing that Hollywood does where they feel like they have to put the entire movie in the trailer.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little refreshing that was like, oh, okay, like we're going to get the stuff that I've seen already done and over with, like, and move into other stuff, right? Because I would have spent the whole movie being like, all right, well, here's where he gets punched into the Antarctic, and then here's where we get to do the Krypto thing, and it's like, no, like we're right in the action. We're not like, we don't have to, start with here we're in the deep dark lab and we're cloning, and then we're gonna do a time jump, and then we're gonna whatever. It's like, no, it's like people know who Superman is. They want to get to the action. Like, let's just go for it. So I was pleased.
I really liked the whole like 300,000 years ago or 3 million years ago, and then 30 years ago, and then 3 minutes ago. Like I thought that was like a nice little touch too, to like kind of help with all of that.
It's onboarding for the people who it gives the people who need it some context, but it's also like, we want these lived-in universes, right? Like Justice League Unlimited is not praised because it spoon-feeds you everything. It's praised because it just assumes that you're going to accept that superheroes live in this world, shit's happening, let's go.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. It's funny that you mentioned Justice League Unlimited because like that last episode where he's fighting Darkseid and he's talking about like how strong he is, Superman, and how he has to like treat the world like it's made out of tissue paper and cardboard basically. I feel like that's the most Superman thing I've ever seen. And I felt like this Superman was the tissue paper and cardboard that he was talking about.
I don't know. I mean, I think I have a little bit of issue with some of the power level stuff they deal with, but I didn't get tissue paper vibes out of the boy.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't. Go ahead, Darryl.
To me, that was one of my issues. And again, this is a lot of the issues I have with this movie is not just this movie in the sense of some of the humor and stuff, but like when you're talking about Kenny with the power, we've seen it a lot in the Marvel movies where it's uneven power creeps. And with Superman, I never felt, even though I like, let's get this off the bat. I actually like Corenswet. I think he could be a great Superman. I don't know about the Clark Kent part because we didn't get a lot of Clark Kent. I think he could be a great Superman because he's one of the things that as we talk, he's one of the things that I liked, even though there was issues with him. But as far as his power, I never felt like he was powerful. Yes, he did things like punching things, holding up buildings, but I never felt that he was powerful. Like, again, I just mentioned not Man of Steel. I just mentioned Superman Returns. And again, this guy's, Brendan Routh is not fighting, metahumans or anything like that. But he feels powerful with some of the feats of strength that he pulls. And yes, I know it's a different Superman, but again, that was one of the things that I had a problem with is him just never feeling powerful.
Yeah, even my fiance mentioned that at some point. It was like however long into the movie, like 45 minutes into the movie, she's like, oh, he just remembered that he has heat vision.
Right. When he was fighting and he's like in the little antimatter lake, river,
right,
rapids, and he's getting like beat down, and it's like, dude, you have super breath, which you've used. You have heat vision, which you can use. Just throw the baby up in the air, use both hands, and go catch it because you're super fast. Like it was kind of like it was like Mission Impossible Final Reckoning when Tom Cruise is fighting Issei Morales on the plane. And then, like, it just went on for too long.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I think there is something to be said about the timeline that we have. You could argue that this is still a relatively young Superman who's still learning some things. There is there's an argument that I guess he could get more powerful as things go, right? More exposure, more whatever. That could be very Super Saiyan of him to develop with each battle kind of thing. There's also the context too, is I get the vibe that, James Gunn prefers his older comics, so he might have wanted a slightly less godlike Superman, not quite leap tall buildings in a single bound, but maybe not, again, we saw broken bones and a popped out shoulder.
Right. I just thought it was funny. He kept running back to the fortress to,
lay in his chair,
get light treatment. Just like, it's
right.
like, hey, I need some, you got number 4, you got some of that good sunlight, it was like, are you an addict? Are you addicted to the sunlight? What's happening?
He needs that concentrated beat.
Right. I also thought it was a huge miss for number 4, who was voiced by Alan Tudyk, not to be number 2. Just, or even 20, like it was just like, I don't know. That was a gigantic miss, even though it was nice to hear his voice.
So I am curious with both of you guys, like what were your feelings going into the movie, like based off the trailers? Were you tepid? Were you excited? Like did the casting do anything for you? Like was there anything in the trailers that had you excited? Like what was your mindset going into it?
So for me, go ahead. You go first.
I was just going to say, for me, my biggest concern, again, so Superman is one of my favorite characters. He's kind of right up there with Captain America. I know, shocker. But I love Superman. And if this was announced, and I'm going back before even the trailers, I was concerned because of James Gunn. Which is funny because every movie that James Gunn has done, I've liked or loved, or really liked or loved. There's nothing he's done that I have not liked. Again, haven't seen everything, but the Guardians movies, Super. I know he was just a producer on the Brightburn, but I've liked James Gunn's stuff. I did not think I was worried about him doing James Gunn things as he did in Guardians, from Guardians 1 to Guardians 2. I thought Guardians 3 actually kind of righted the ship. When I saw the trailers, I was underwhelmed, but I said, trailers are what they are. It didn't tell me anything, which I actually kind of like, because my favorite movie of the year so far is Sinners, and the second trailer of that told me several things that I wish I would have known. And going back to what you said, Kenny, about these trailers telling you stuff, I kept hoping, though. I was hoping that my concerns would be at least kind of soothed a little bit, because I really wanted to like this movie. No, I really wanted to love this movie. Again, huge Superman fan, and I really wanted to love this movie. So going in, I was very concerned just because of James Gunn, his track record of doing oddball stuff in movies that works for the movies he does. But I was worried that it wouldn't work for Superman, and he would get to James Gunn, and for me, he did. What about you, Brian?
I'm pretty similar there. The one thing that I haven't liked David Corenswet. I didn't like him in Pearl, or in Twisters. I just kind of I didn't feel like even in the previews, like he had that like Superman like vibe to him. And I thought everything was too cheesy. Like the pendulum went too far the other way from the Snyderverse.
Yeah.
Where it went from being too dark to now it's too cheesy. And then I wasn't a huge fan of Nicholas Hoult as being cast as Lex Luthor. I just, again, like I don't know, like after seeing it and like seeing that his what Lex's what's the word I'm looking for, motivation, what his motivations were with envy, I kind of get that, why he acted the way he did, but But I also was like aesthetically, I wasn't like super into the suit. I wasn't super into kind of the Fantastic Four-ish vibe of like the kind of like you were saying, Kenny, the older comics and things like that. I wish they would have, like, the way they were going, they were trying to kind of invoke All-Star Superman, and I wish they would have gone like further with that. So I was definitely had some trepidation going in because I love Guardians, the first one. It's it's my 1A MCU movie. Depending on the day of the week between that and Winter Soldier. But at the end of the day, it was just I wanted it to be good. I really did.
So, I mean, I went into it not that dissimilar, right? Like, I'm like, that guy doesn't feel like Superman to me. I don't read Lex. This is all from the trailers, right? I'm like, I don't read Lex. They're packing this movie with a ton of stuff. Like, I was going into it pretty apprehensive. I'm pretty burnt out on James Gunn. Again, I do think every movie he's made has been like a 7 to a 9 out of 10. But, like, for me, Guardians 3 was barely pushing a 7. And, like, the shtick was worn out. Like, I was kind of burnt on it. But I'm like, I'm going to go because I love, Superman is iconic, right? I'm going to give it a go. And I love Marvelous Miss Maisel. And her as Lois was exciting, and then it was the second trailer where they do the interview scene where they're going back and forth, and that was the only thing that I saw in the trailer. Like, the Krypto stuff made me laugh, and I like Krypto, and I'm like, all right, that's going to be fun. But like the Lois and Clark like interview scene, I'm like, all right, like that's the first time that guy had done anything in the trailers that made me feel like he had the character in his grasp. So I went into it pretty apprehensive, but I mean, I do feel like when I walked out of the theater, I felt like I'd seen a Superman movie that embraced the comic booky nature of Superman and of the DC universe. And to me, it did feel like a callback to the DC animated films, or, obviously he's not as mature as a Superman in Justice League, but like, that Justice League Unlimited world where it is lived in, like it could almost fit in the continuity of the Bruce Timm verse for me, where it's like, if it's Superman the early years, but
yeah,
I don't know. I thought Hoult really impressed me. I've not been the biggest fan of his over the years. He's been pretty hit or miss. I didn't care for him as Beast, and I usually need Lex to be a little bit more mature, but like the cunning, like really leaning into the hyper intelligence and the super motivated and the envious. Like, the only thing that was really missing for me with him was I kind of felt like he should be maybe jacked. Like, it is that, like, if you're going to be and I get he was saying like, brain beats brawn, and maybe that's why they didn't go for it. But like, there is that, like, if you're trying to be the ultimate human kind of thing, like, well, then be the ultimate human. But I really was impressed with the way they, it wasn't him trying to do a real estate land grab against Superman,
right?
It wasn't he didn't found Facebook and then get mad at Superman. Like, this guy, like, he did feel super villainish to me.
I'll agree with that. Like, he felt super villainish. I do think you're right about that. I don't know. Like, when he had his monologue about like, whenever somebody mentions Einstein or me together, I get envious and all that. It was like too petulant, if that makes sense. And then like Darryl pointed this out, so I'll let him talk more about it. But the whole calling out the plays, essentially, I felt was too over the top for what he did with Ultraman.
Yes. And again, this kind of goes back to how you show powers. Superman is not, well, we all know this. Superman is not just super strong, he's super fast. And not once in the fight, or there might have been one time, so I'm not going to say not once, but rarely did he seem like he was moving quickly. To the point, again, in a fight like that, you couldn't do what you did. That's my thought was Lex could have created some type of AI or had some type of what is it called? Cerebro on him where he's calling out the plays like in his head or something, or connected to Ultraman instead of verbally calling out the plays and then having someone
Lag
type
time.
it in. Yeah, that lag time, that would not have worked. And again, I know we have to suspend some disbelief, but again, when you're talking about a world, yes, I suspend disbelief that this little cute little fuzzy guy turns into a 100-foot kaiju, which I thought that was kind of funny, that little thing coming out and the guy's like, it'll get bigger. But that was one of those things that took me out. The whole Lex command center aspect, didn't like that. As far as Nicholas Holt's performance, and this is one of the reasons I was so angry at this movie. I get angry at movies, if it's just a terrible movie and it's a waste of my time, and B, when it's something that I see the potential of and it's just not clicking for me because of some of the issues with the directing or the acting or the script, and that was one of them. And he was probably, from a character standpoint, the biggest issue with that is that, because there were moments I really liked him and I really bought what he was selling, but the petulance that he showed, like when he's knocking stuff over and then the people are cleaning it up and he knocks it back over, that didn't work for me. The monologue at the end, there were some parts of it I liked, and then, like you said, Brian, it was just too petulant. And then at the end, he sheds the tear, which I've said this for years. I'm so tired of the way that these actors show emotion. You have to cry. And that's a thing that has nothing to do with just Superman, but that's a thing for the last few years I've told you, Brian, that really annoys me about show. And they do it to death in some shows, Star Trek Discovery. But,
yeah, I probably would have preferred to have seen like more of a seething hatred kind of like, because again, they lay groundwork for a power suit later, right? Like they lay groundwork for future Lex stuff. And so I think instead of him being heartbroken that his plan fell apart, like, just seeing the calculated resolve of a seething hatred in his face as he's, as it's all falling apart, where like he's already kind of planning his next whatever I'm going to, however I'm going to get my revenge kind of thing. Like that probably would have hit better than the tear. I didn't think about the lag time thing that you mentioned with the fight. I do feel, and I'd have to rewatch it, but I did feel like they were trying to show that he was calling like multiple plays and that they might have even been calling them ahead of time. But you are right. Like it is, if you have an Ultraman and a Superman, there would be, it's different, I guess, with the engineer, but like with an Ultraman and a Superman, like you would be having like a Vegeta and Goku level, like speed fight. And then, you would have camera to human to input, like there's like a 5-step window for the next move. Right. And it's like Superman's that predictable, Yeah.
It's one of the things I actually liked in, I love Man of Steel, but even though he had several issues, but like when Faora was fighting the soldiers, how she was moving, like how Kryptonians would move in this planet. I like that idea of, again, you don't want to, like you said, do Dragon Ball Z where you don't see anything and you have big eyeballs because people are like, I can't see what's going on. But at least show it like to the standpoint for a second or two from the viewer, what the viewer would see and how they couldn't keep up with it. So again, that kind of goes into the whole power issue with Superman that, that was an issue I had with the movie. But Lex was maddening just because I just saw aspects where I was like, okay, I like this. And then aspects, I think that more than anything, the frustration of seeing something that I really liked, and then almost the next scene taking it away, per se, is why I was so angry with this movie. Not that I thought it was like just a straight up horrible movie. It was more the stuff that James Gunn did that just James Gunn. That and again, like you said, Kenny, like a lot of his stuff is good, but he has a tendency to fall in love with his own parts. And kind of like Zack Snyder with slow mo. It's
Right.
just like, come on, guy, you can cut 15 minutes off this movie, Zach, if you just stop with the slow mo.
15,
in another 4 minutes if you drop Hallelujah out.
Hey, why would you cut Hallelujah out? That's a great song. I will say the most Lex Luthor thing he did was the prison inside the Pocket universe for people who had just the most like barest slight against him.
Right.
Like
yeah.
this
Ex-girlfriend that wrote a blog.
the blogger, she was like she said something bad about me once. So
yeah,
Straight
I know a
to
guy
jail.
like that.
Yeah.
I do think from Lex, it wasn't a perfect thing. I think for me the rift, the whole rift thing at the end of the movie, like I'm never really a big fan of the mega CGI crisis thing that has to happen, whether it's the big orb or the big whatever that you have to stop.
The light in the sky.
Yeah, and like the giant rift that was just slowly eating the city, but like he wouldn't turn off, and then when they turned it off, it like just healed itself all, nice or whatever. I did feel like, that sort of grand scheme too of like he's so desperate all of a sudden that he's just gonna let this rift run through and tear open the city, I guess. And then the idea of him, like his grand scheme, honestly, maybe it's not that different from
No, it's not. Now that I think
Superman
about
Returns,
now
where
that
it's
we're
like,
talking about it, it's like
where he's like, oh, like I also have a big land grab, but this one I want to grab a third world country. Like, no, you should want to be president of the United States. Like, why are you trying to take over a third world country and be a king?
I felt like this was a lot of like Superman 2, like the bad parts of Superman 2, and Superman 4 were like kind of all tied into this movie, which is the vibe that it gave me while I was watching it.
I don't even remember Superman 4, so
Well, it was like the
Is that the one with
nuclear
the evil
man.
Superman?
Yeah, well, with the nuclear version of Superman.
the nuclear man.
Right.
That he buries in the moon when he like sledgehammers him down. But did you watch Superman and Lois?
I did not know.
Okay.
I was on the for context, right? Like big Lois and Clark guy, big Smallville guy, like, but I had sort of tapped out on the CW stuff, and then like, it was always on the edge of my radar, but then like, I don't know, by the time I heard that like it all got resolved, they put a human heart in him or something, I'm just like, this sounds like more CW stuff that I don't need.
So, a couple things there. It was supposed to go for 7 seasons, but because James Gunn didn't want a Superman people actually liked, he made the CW cancel it. And so they like jetpacked the ending with like, okay, we have to get from here to here for the death of Superman. And that was where the human heart thing came into play. But it is hands down like the best version of Clark, the Clark Superman like work-life balance and then relationship with Lois.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
They introduced Michael Cudlitz as Lex Luthor in the last 2 seasons, and he was a more like kind of blue collar, like gruff, get his hands dirty, like you were talking about, kind of jacked. And like for me, it's like, okay, so no one understands who Lex Luthor is anymore. Like, because we didn't like super care for that version of Lex Luthor, and I think again pendulum swings, right? This was too far like towards the infantile, and not towards that super cunning, super 12.
So who's your guys' gold standard Lex?
Clancy Brown, hands down.
Is he the voice of?
He's the voice.
Yeah, I was about to say
animated. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So I mean, same, right? And so it's like, and it is. I know. It's like it's always almost cheating because when you go, well, who's your Batman? You're like, well, Kevin Conroy, and you're like, who's your Lex? And you're like,
to be fair about Kevin Conroy, Mask of the Phantasm did open in the theaters first.
You're right.
So,
yeah, I mean,
I do remember that. I never.
and
I mean, honestly, my Lex Luthor, like the prototype, is Michael Rosenbaum. I mean, I think he probably did it better because he had a longer chance to do it than anybody else.
But he never got to like fully embrace, like we never really got to see him like full on Lex Luthor either,
yeah.
though, you know.
You saw pieces of, you
Yeah.
you definitely saw what he was capable of, but you know,
I mean, you didn't see him you couldn't see him full swing because Superman wasn't there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I did what was his name? The guy who played Lex in Lois and Clark. John Shea. I liked John Shea. I thought he was like that John Byrne Man of Steel Lex Luthor. Where he was kind of suave, but like still like a bad guy, and you know, he wasn't like I'm a bad guy, but I'm not a bad guy. He was a straight up bad guy.
Yeah, biggest problem with him was that, you know, he didn't like to travel, so that he ended the run on the show too early.
That's true too.
Serious? Oh, jeez.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's no. I mean, I mean Hackman. I mean, he wasn't like he was a completely different kind of Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I mean, Lex seems to have so much range. That's why I was curious if we all had the same preferred, which it seems like we do. And
Clancy Brown,
you know,
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I liked that this was, you know, obviously Kryptonite came into play, but I liked that there was more than just Kryptonite going on. Yeah. You know, I liked that there was some of the mad scientists and some of the planning and things like that. It also seems like this is the first time that they've ever interacted, right? He literally says, like, it's nice to meet you, right? Like, so they hadn't even, like, met. And so, like, so to some degree, there is a bit of an origin story in this, theoretically, where it's, you know, arch enemies meeting for the first time kind of thing. Like, not that you want to like Force Awakens this and call it a good movie because of the potential it has in the future, but you know, I liked a lot of the groundwork that was laid, whether it was like, oh, okay, like that's clearly a prototype for the power armor, right? Like this is, you know, this is early stages of Lex, and you know, I think if they were to revisit him, I don't think I would walk into it dreading it, because I would be curious to see where they took him from here.
I agree. Like there are those like building blocks there for more. Who's your favorite Superman villain?
I mean, again, being a Smallville and a Bruce Timm guy, it's hard not to say Lex Luthor because of Clancy Brown. Yeah. But I mean, outside of that, like honestly, it's kind of lame, but it's probably Parasite.
No, that's not lame because that's mine. So, like the fact that we haven't like, so in Superman and Lois season 2, Parasite is the villain, and it's the Ali Alston version of her with a whole different twist, right? It's like kind of got a little bizarre twist, if you will. Dude, season 2 of Lois and Clark is fire. But like Parasite is number 1 for me, and like I know he's not technically like a Superman villain because he's like kind of an anti-hero, but I think Lobo's number 2.
Well, the problem with Lobo is that he got earmarked for Supergirl, for drunk Supergirl versus Lobo, I guess.
Did you read that comic by chance, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow?
No.
It is.
I tried reading it. So I read a few issues. Like I couldn't finish it.
What you see of her in the end credit scene there is what that entire movie is going to be.
Yeah, that was probably my least favorite part of the movie. I'm like, this is the selling point for the movie. Is like this is how you sell me on the next movie in your universe. Is this scene great?
She did look great, like in the costume, even with the brown jacket. Like she looked great. Like Millie Alcock was awesome in the first season of House of the Dragon. So
first 5 episodes.
Yeah, first. Well, yeah. But, you know, I don't know. Like Darryl, who's your favorite?
That's what I was trying to think of.
Mixel Piddle.
And no, I mean, it's kind of colored with some of the live action stuff because, like, thinking back to, again, one of my I would have to say my favorite Superman movie. Not the best one, not the one I watch all the time, but the one that fills me most with hope and all that stuff is Superman 2. Terrence Stamp is Zod, but then you had Zod come in to Smallville, and you had Tauro in, and then you had, I mean, not Tauro, but that's that's
Who played Zod in Smallville? Do you remember?
Well,
I see his
Rosenbaum did it first.
Yeah, true.
And then
his face.
which one are you looking it up, or am I doing it?
I already know it. So
Oh, okay.
it was an actor named Callum Blue, and he was awesome.
Callum. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
But,
Yeah.
Did you see the Smallville and Supes and Lolo cast is going to be at the Cincinnati Comic Expo this year?
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, Andrew's got he's got Clark and Lois. He's got some Smallville people. He's got Dean Cain. He's got Helen Slater. He's got 12 or 14 Superman guests. Like he's all in on Superman this year. So.
I have
Ralph's going to be there.
Yeah. So you know how in Ohio we don't have to have the front license plate anymore? I have my Superman license plate. I want to take and have them all sign it.
That'd be awesome. That's a big $600 license plate.
Oh no, I'm gonna see if I can get interviews and be like, hey, by the way, I have. So,
Cheeky.
here's a Sharpie. But okay, so that was the other thing for me that kind of was like, oh, again, that Lex Luthor was the main villain. Right?
So that was me going into the trailer, right? Is even when they announced the project, I'm like, anything but Lex and Zod. Mm-hmm. Anything but Lex and Zod. Like, as much as I love a good Lex, you are just there's been there's 4, 5, 6. This is the 7th Superman movie, and it's always Lex and Zod, and it's like, dude, give me just give me a fight with Parasite or Metallo or Brainiac or something,
Cyborg Superman.
I don't even like Brainiac, but give me a Brainiac story.
The Eradicator.
Give me. You know what?
Good.
How about Red Superman versus Blue Superman?
There you go.
Like we really need.
I mean, we're the only ones who need that. But I do want to point out that it's funny that none of us said anything about Kevin Spacey. All right, let's talk about.
And it's funny because I'm watching that. Like I said, I'm finishing that up now.
Let's talk about.
I think honestly, hold on.
Sorry.
I think Kevin Spacey might be my second favorite Lex Luthor.
Okay.
I actually liked him. That's
the plot's dumb, but the performance is there.
I just thought it was funny that we didn't even mention him. I'm not saying anything about how he was a Superman. He unfortunately
was
in a Superman movie where Superman didn't throw a punch. So, so there's that. But okay, let's move on to the thing that I was most aggrieved by in this movie, and it was the sheer fact that they even existed, the Justice Gang.
Oh, why do you hate fun?
Well, for one, Guy Gardner is my second favorite Green Lantern, and his hair hasn't looked like that in 30 years. And I thought it was really stupid not to make Guy Gardner look absolutely as fucking cool as possible. And
which is so funny because I couldn't tell you what he looked like now.
Has passed.
Yeah, there's that.
So I will disagree with this. I like the Justice Gang. I did not like Hawkgirl as much as I thought. I thought she was going to be cool. I didn't like her.
It was a little every time she was
right
on screen.
there.
I was
that was pretty hokey.
I was like, I'm glad I didn't carry to the theater because I would have blown my brains out.
But while I do get annoyed that Nathan Fillion is all in a James Gunn movie, it seems like, I really liked him as Guy Gardner. And I like Eddie, I'm just going to call him E.G., as Mr. Terrific, probably 80% of the time, because I loved his straight man vibe, but then they started doing the James Gunn thing and then, playing that for laughs. I didn't like that because I thought he did. I really loved that straight edge. No, not CM Punk. That just the straight man to everything going around him, always calm and cool.
The first 80% of his time on screen, man, he was an absolute badass, and then they turned him quippy at the end.
I really like that. I liked
the one thing I did the actual main character of the movie.
Yeah. The one thing I did like is with him, the one that made me laugh was when he's like, I put nanites in his blood. He's like, you put nanites in your friend's blood? It's like, I do that to everybody.
It was very, very, very Batmanish,
I was
right?
going to
Where
say
you're
that
like,
was the most
like you're
Batman thing
calculating.
he could have said. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you where I enjoyed because again, I like a lived-in DC universe. I don't like, this weird thing where we have to pretend that these heroes don't exist and cooperate. I like Lois going in and like, Dora the Explorer and Nathan Fillion sitting there like, oh, we're not going to do anything, but Mr. Terrific's like, begrudgingly doing it, and then like he gets to be badass. I've never actually liked Mr. Terrific before, and I left that movie being like, well, until he starts cracking jokes, Mr. Terrific's kind of awesome.
The apex of Mr. Terrific in the movie was the garage. Because after the garage, for me, it was downhill for him.
The garage got two Guardians for me, man. I was like, here we go. We gotta get jokey with it, like.
But I did like the T-ship. I thought the T-spheres were done great. Like the T-spheres were done really, really well. I didn't like. I don't know. I thought Mr. Terrific like had like a ton to do in this movie, which is good, because he's a cool character, and hopefully we get some other cool stories. It was the mask with the black lipstick, the way it was.
Oh, I thought it looked badass.
It kept throwing me off because like I hate to say this, but the way they did the T on Mr. Terrific in the Arrow, I thought was really good.
I thought that one was better. I did like EG's performance. Like I said, 80% of the time, he was just the man on screen. But I would like to see more of him.
For sure. I hope that he gets brought into something.
I just don't want James Gunn to do it.
Well, there's going to be a Justice Gang movie.
I mean, and Hawkgirl, she didn't really have a lot to do. She was honestly she was clearly an afterthought character.
Right.
But I mean, Guy Gardner was the best live action Green Lantern we've had. So
have we had another live action Green Lantern?
Yeah, you're doing that thing you do.
What thing am I doing? When did we have a live action Green Lantern?
Can we have a sidebar though about like how stoked I am for the Max Lanterns project?
If it's half as good as Dune Prophecy, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
No, I'm not kidding. I loved Dune Prophecy. And
know
how I feel about Dune. Like,
right. Okay. All right.
Like everyone knows how I feel about Dune.
Yeah. I am actually looking forward to that. Also because one thing Max does is generally does damn good shows. I mean, not just Dune Prophecy, the Penguin. I mean, you had the Game of Thrones, you have House of the Dragon, and then a bunch of stuff that people talk about that I haven't watched.
Look, I just want a live action Kyle Rayner. Is that too much to ask for?
I watched Rebel Ridge, and I literally walked into the store the next day, and I'm like, yo, man, that guy would make the dopest Jon Stewart. Like, somebody needs to get a hold of DC and be like, yo,
I think we said that when we reviewed that.
Yeah, I thought Rebel Ridge was fine, but him, he just pops on screen.
Well, since
they're doing pops on screen,
I don't know, since they're doing older characters as the Green Lanterns, I still think Common would be the best Jon Stewart.
Well, Common still has a knife in his heart from John Wick, so I don't know if
that. Okay, I thought for a second they were going to kill Krypto and Clark was going to go full John Wick.
We had a similar conversation when we left. We were like, are they going to kill Krypto and then make him snap the bad guy's neck? Like, what's about to go on here?
I literally in the theater, I was like, holy shit, we're getting a John Wick moment. And I was definitely pissing the guy off next to me.
No, I don't know if you heard, but I think what's his name? Chris Gore was talking about that. They apparently, again, when they were doing, there was a scene where, and again, I know this is tired and this is done all the time, where you think a character's dead and he comes back, but they were going to do that with Krypto, and apparently they changed it.
I had heard that last night too. Somebody said that there was a test screening where it went over so poorly that they changed it.
Well, I mean, they were making changes to this movie up until a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
Now you guys are down on the movie overall, but I'm gonna pick what has to be a positive target and ask you guys about Lois Lane.
I really like their chemistry, her and Clark. And this is the other thing I'll say. We had 2 or 3 instances in the trailers and previews where Clark was yelling, and I was like, or it's Superman. I'm like, guy, okay, I can understand here and there, like once, but it was too much. The one time in the movie where he did that and I understood is the interview with Lois. It wasn't he because it seemed like he was angry at the people questioning him. That wasn't it. In that scene, he was trying to explain himself to Lois, and she was doing the reporter thing, like not listening and getting out her question. So I was like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. But I really like their chemistry. I think she's a fantastic actress. That was one of the things, because I didn't know anything about Corenswet. But that was one of the, when I heard she was cast, I was like, she's going to make a very good Lois. And I thought she did make a good Lois.
Brian?
I thought she was great as Lois. I thought this version of Lois was a little strange for me because the way she attacked him, and then like the kind of the manipulation when she was like, I told you I wasn't good at relationships, and let him leave. I thought that was like a super manipulative thing for her to do, especially like after the interaction that they were having there. I did like how she wasn't just a damsel in a dress. That was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hated how like she had the T ship fall off the Daily Planet when she'd been flying it just fine.
Right.
I thought that was another one of those James Gunn Guardian things. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then it goes straight up.
You have to have the little jokes everywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't Marvel, dude. Like, let's get past
again,
this.
This was one of my biggest, and this is one of my biggest issues with James Gunn. One of the best emotional scenes in Infinity War is with Gamora and Peter Quill talking, and she tells him, I know something that Thanos can't know, and you're going to have to kill me. And she says, swear on your mother. And he does, and they kiss, and that should have been the scene as it pans out. And then you get Drax in the corner, the "you can't see me" Drax, which people laughed at. That really James Gunn tends to not know how to let a scene breathe. And
sure,
another example of that in this movie where, I was not a fan of how he portrayed Martha and John Kent, to be honest.
Yeah, me either.
I love that conversation that John had with Clark. He's like, we're just here, as parents, we're here, to help guide you in the right place. We're not making the decisions for you. Basically, we're hoping you make the right, giving you what you need, but you're the one that makes the decisions, not us. And that was such a powerful moment. And then the mother comes out and says, oh, mushy. Check out what's on the box. It's like, just let us breathe. Let us live with that moment longer. And like Brian said, the MCU is wrought with that. I will say, have you seen Thunderbolts, Kenny?
No.
I did not expect I was excited for it, but I didn't expect to like it because there was some, and there was some stuff that happens that they actually let. Now, don't get me wrong, they do the Marvel stuff and they have the jokes here and there. A few too many jokes, but there are some powerful emotional moments in that movie, and a lot of them they actually let breathe. Because if they didn't, it would have ruined the movie for me because the moments are so important. And that's what James Gunn has a problem with. And we read the article where he said, I couldn't have made this movie 6 years ago because I'm more mature. It does not seem like it, because it's the same issues I have with some of the Guardians movies as I had with this movie.
Yeah, and I think the context of it being 10 years, and 3 movies of it, it's like, yeah, the shtick's gotten old.
Yeah. And the other thing where you're talking about, I did like Corenswet. I didn't. It's not that I didn't care for him. I thought he was fine in Pearl. I thought he was fine in Twisters. I see this guy. I think he can be great. Uh, just don't Henry Cavill him, please. Don't do that. Again, I'm a huge fan of Man of Steel, but how they handled him, what happened to Henry Cavill with The
wasted.
Witcher.
Oh,
Again, that's another one. But I think he can be great. The thing is, and like you did mention, Kid, and I will have to give you this, that, I mean, he seems like he's only 3 years in. I heard somebody say, like today, it's like he's the Gen Z Superman. And with the emotional stuff, and I'm like, that's kind of right. Because there's a lack of, and when I said he never felt powerful, that wasn't just in a physical way. I just never felt he felt powerful as a person, and that should have been. And it. I think towards the end, it was a little bit. I could see more, glimpses of him changing, which is a good thing. But it didn't feel like anyone in the movie took him seriously. Like, not the Justice Gang, not Lex Luthor,
Not Lois.
not Lois. It's
yeah. There was no reverence. There was no, like, nobody was ever in awe of him. Nobody,
yeah,
like, and I think some of that is that Marvel school of writing, right? Where, like, you know, everybody's equal and everybody not equal, and, like, you know what I mean, though? Like, everybody's on the level, like, the same playing field, and it's
yeah.
like, it's like, no, man, this guy is this, like, extraterrestrial, like, ultra powerful. Like, if anything, you should at least be, like, slightly afraid of him.
Yeah.
you know?
And it's funny that as much as I did not like Dawn of Justice, I like how they showed how some people went off the deep end with, basically worshiping him.
Right.
And again, I don't, you don't have to do that because they already did it. But to have this, like you said, like people, looking at him and like, hey, this is my friend. No, you would revere some, like, people. And again, you're talking about how the way they try to bring out, modern stuff, which we will. Monkeys, really?
Oh.
I thought that was leading to Dr. Ivo and then like an Amazo reveal. And
If that happened,
yeah, that would have been great.
I would have been like, okay, that's.
And that would have been a deep enough cut for Gunn that it would have felt believable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that like I expected from him. I do like James Gunn was my biggest issue when at first he was like, yeah, we're looking for a director. I'm going to write the script. And then he's like, I'm just going to do both. And that's where all of my like fear for this movie came from, and I don't think he's matured enough to get rid of that. The thing that he does not really understand, and if you look at all of his movies, he does not understand the aspirational character, the character that people aspire to be. I mean, look what he did to Thor with the whole, oh, I'm in charge. And it's like, that whole scene right there, like there should have been some reverence for Thor. But like that scene didn't need to happen. The guy that just like threw the can at Superman, right? It's like at no point did he think, "Oh, I'm gonna get Homelandered and get like just like cut in half."
Well, the whole reaction to the video thing was one of the things that caught me off guard, where, like, everybody sees this clip out of nowhere, and then it's like the place turns into a mob all of a sudden, and people start like the whole that part of the movie where it's like there's a message from somebody that says he's here to take, like, and just the way people automatically, like, it just immediately turned into a riot kind of thing. I was like, that didn't land for me.
Look, I know he has portals and stuff, but the speed from him and engineer hacking into the computer, getting the message, and then being verified by all of these experts, and then getting on a talk show.
Right.
Well, and again, this is with Superman fighting the kaiju and finally beating the kaiju. Come on. And let's talk about, the whole Jor-El thing. Really? You're going to, like, I knew for a fact. I was like, oh yeah, that he doctored this image. It doesn't say that,
They only had Bradley Cooper for like a day.
and that's what you give us.
Was Bradley Cooper Jor-El?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't even notice. I was so I was like watching the movie. One of the things that I was giving James Gunn some credit for was that Guardians and Suicide Squad. It felt like he was working with a lot of relatively known talent, like bigger actors and stuff. And I was like, oh wow, it's cool that I only recognize a handful of actors in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That so I just looked at the parents and I'm like, well, I can, granted it was on an Omnimax screen, but I'm like, oh, I don't really recognize them. I don't recognize Ma and Pa Kent, right? Like I don't recognize this person or that person. I'm like, oh, it's cool that he's not just using the Disney Rolodex and getting the biggest names of the time. But
And
that's funny that I totally missed
Bradley Cooper. So,
right.
and
the boys
was,
now though, right? He likes to hide his friends in there, just like Maxwell Lord and Alan Tudyk and Guy Gardner, and he's got his crew. I'm surprised Michael Rooker wasn't in there, or maybe he was and I missed it. Was Michael Rooker?
I think his wife had a role as one of the. Didn't she have a role as one of the bots? I thought, or was that something else she was in?
Michael Rooker was the Sun Eater that they were fighting while he was pouting in the apartment. Which, you know what, that was something that really got me when the Justice Gang's fighting the Sun Eater and he goes back to his apartment. That was the scene that they showed where he was like sitting there putting his boots on, and we were all like, oh, that's just a CG thing. Superman would never let that happen. And he went home to pout in the middle of like a giant thing attacking Metropolis.
See, I thought it showed a little bit of confidence though, where he's like, where there was that it's not that big of a deal. They've got it. Now granted, would it have been nice to see him, I guess, zip out and take care of it in, 30 seconds? Yeah, but it didn't. That part didn't really stand out to me because his world did just get turned upside down.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just would have liked to see at least a squash match between him versus someone.
Again, that goes back to I never felt like a power. Again, he doesn't have to lift like Brandon Routh did, the massive kryptonite crystal island, which I mean that's still the best. The feat of strength of that. As far as live action goes, I don't think there's anything else that comes close to that. But you don't have to do that. It's just like you said, right? I wanted to see at least one, because again, as much as I like starting in the middle of things, we're seeing him get beat up. And Kenny, do you watch wrestling?
Very little.
Oh. So one of the wrestlers, his name is Sami Zayn, and he's the underdog. He's always getting his ass kicked, but he finds a way to pull it out of his ass and win. And that's what it felt like. Superman should not feel Sami Zayn.
That's Superman, fair. Yeah, I mean, it does seem to fall into that modern trope of needing to tear down the beloved thing, needing to break it down a little bit. Where there was some degree, and I guess it's hard, right? Because you do need a journey for the hero. You need a challenge to overcome, and that's an inherent problem with Superman, is that is the power level, the power differential, how do you make him compelling but powerful? And obviously I don't think they answered it completely, but I mean I do see that you never really did get a even when he was strong, it did feel like he was struggling
and
to be strong.
Right, and I know it's not always fair because it's a series, but Superman and Lois, sometimes I had issues with that because of the power kind of fluctuation. And again, that's that's what I said with this movie. It's not just this movie; it's all these superhero movies. You have these fluctuations. You have them in the comic. Hell, you have it in the comics all the time, where it's okay, on this this. Okay, she just judo through this guy who can lift 100 tons. Come on. But with Superman and Lois, I thought they did a good job, generally speaking, showing him to be, and again, because of the budget and everything, he wasn't going to be, super powerful in the sense of seeing all the time. But I always thought they did a solid job, at least here and there, showing just how powerful Superman was. Not all the time, but at least at least here and there. And that was one of the things I was missing in this movie for Superman. Hell, it could have been him saving somebody and again, I know with the building thing, you could have shown like with with Superman Returns, there's like a montage of him just saving people. I mean, you do see Superman saving people here, but maybe like having in Superman and Lois, he saved a submarine. And there was this whole issue because it was a Chinese submarine, and the Department of Defense was like, "Hey, you could have, brought this sub over here instead of just dropping it off in China." Something like that. And you could have still worked it into the whole conflict thing.
To that point, actually, I thought for sure that he was going to choose to go over and stop the war before he went to do the Metropolis fight. The way they were pacing it, I thought that he was going to prioritize the people that were going to be murdered innocently versus the city that had been evacuated, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, that was a quick evacuation, by the way.
Let's talk about the two things that I like the most in the movie. Krypto and Jimmy Olsen.
Okay. So, I really like Jimmy Olsen. I'll just say I'll say that off. Because I like that actor in general, but I really liked him as Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, he plays Danny McBride's oldest son in the Righteous Gemstones. He was in the Vacation reboot with Ed Helms.
He was a Santa Clarita Diet. That's what I like.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, he was. That's where I remember him from Santa Clarita.
But I just loved how like every woman was like, "What's up, Jimmy?" Like as he was walking by, and then the fact that he's Eskimo Brothers with Lex Luthor, I thought was fantastic.
See, I felt like the Jimmy with the girls stuff, while it's fun, it did feel like the need to turn a lot of stuff into something funny, where like it's like, oh, like mutant toes, like first off, there's not a man that has ever turned down a girl that looks like that because of her toes.
No. So you're right.
Like full stop. And like, and so like the ongoing gimmick of like, like, cause like, honestly, I felt like Jimmy Olsen was comic relief the whole movie. Like, it was fun at first, but then like his whole thing just became that like, oh, girls find him irresistible. And then, I think in general, the Daily Planet people in their arc, left me a little underwhelmed.
Wanting.
But
yeah. I liked it because it's a different version of Jimmy that we've seen. Like again, going back to like Smallville,
James Olsen.
We got James Olsen and his little brother Jimmy.
Right.
And like with Supergirl, it was James Olsen and it was the dude from True Blood, the black guy. And then even with
terrible Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Probably the best Jimmy Olsen is from Superman Returns with Sam.
Sam. Yeah.
I gotta look it up. But like
Harrington?
I liked it.
No.
What?
No, I got it. I was like, is it Harrington? It's not that.
It is Harrington, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
I think it is.
It's not Harrington. It's Huntington. Sam Huntington.
Huntington.
So,
yeah.
Harrington's kid. That's right.
Yeah.
That's Game of Thrones.
Because he was in Being Human with Sam
Witwer.
Witwer.
Yeah.
It was the Sams. He's the best Jimmy Olsen that's ever been in live action, hands down. But even like the Jimmy Olsen in Superman and Lois, he was older, and he and Clark had like a falling out because Clark never told him he was Superman. But he understood, kind of a thing. But yeah, no, I that's why I liked it, because for that it was different. And if there was anybody who was aspirational in the movie, it was Poonhound Jimmy Olsen. So, and then Krypto, like Krypto definitely looked CG. I don't know if there was ever a real dog, if it was always CG.
I don't probably
all
not.
CG. I liked that Krypto acted like a dog, even though he
100%.
was a very bad dog. Like this chasing squirrels thing was a great way to, nullify a superdog.
So Krypto to me, and I think I told you this morning, it reminded me of the stupid ass goats from Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
It was overkill. Krypto was fine if they didn't play him every time for a joke, and Superman having to say, "Stop, bad dog, stop." I don't care if that happens. It's like, hey, I have a cat, and the cat's always trying to kill me by tripping me when I'm going down the steps. If you had a movie and a cat would always do that, it would get annoying. And that's what it was for me with Krypto. And again, the CG part was off, not off-putting, I would say, but it didn't look like a dog.
Yeah.
But because this is a thing. There were funny moments with Krypto, but James Gunn doesn't understand. What do you say, Brian? What's your word?
Restraint.
Yeah, he doesn't understand restraint, and that's why.
Sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's why Krypto, even when he was funny, and I like the end how he helped, where he's like, get the ball, but all that stuff in between, it was just too much for me.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the Krypto stuff. That's part of why I was surprised to hear such enthusiasm about Jimmy and Krypto in particular, though, was because, I mean, Krypto from the first trailer, and then I think all the way, through the movie, was, a lot like Jimmy, where like he was almost purely comic relief until the plot demanded that he be necessary, to go, actually accomplish something, even to the point of interrupting Superman and Lex at the end on the ship.
Yeah.
And now that said, I liked Krypto for the most part. I thought that, that part of the humor didn't bother me nearly as much as the needing to punctuate every scene with a laugh.
Or a middle finger. Literally.
Right. Well, that's Guy Gardner, though. I mean, that's Guy Gardner.
I know, but like doing it once would have been great, and then but every
Did
single
he do it multiple times?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it did like 3 or 4
every
times.
other one was a middle finger.
Yeah.
I only saw it once in the desert, but
yeah.
that could have been the screen I was watching it on.
Well, you were on a curved dome screen, so I forgive you for not seeing it in full fidelity.
I'm gonna see it the second best way. I'm gonna take a 5-year-old to see it at a drive-in, so that'll be the primo experience.
You're not going to take him to the IMAX?
No. I think he's more of an outside kid.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to do. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll take. Anyway. Yeah. All right. So a couple things. So the movie, it was 2 hours and 9 minutes long. You do have to stay all the way to the end. There's 2 different.
You really don't.
No, you
really
do.
don't.
I had to do it. They have to do it. So,
but really, don't waste your time.
It's on YouTube already. So it's a $225 million budget right now, is what's been reported. But when Warner Brothers in what are we in Q3? So in Q2 of next year, when Warner Brothers has to release like the numbers for this, the budget for this is going to skyrocket. it's going to be closer to like probably $300 million production and another $500 million marketing, which I'm super excited for the marketing of this movie to end, by the way. Almost as excited as I am for the marketing of F1 to end. But it's funny because the projections have been all over the place for this. At one point, they were projecting domestically 145 million, and it got all the way down to 85. And I think it's kind of like right around 100. But the problem is the girl math people over at Deadline put an article out today saying that it's flying to a $200 million global opening. So that's the worldwide number. And if that's the worldwide number, then the domestic U.S. box office will be under $100 million, which will make this a flop.
That would be crazy.
So, I mean, if that's the way it is, because like the way, usually it's about 45%, like 40 to 45% of the total haul is just the U.S. And then the rest of the world is the other 55%. And then the Friday number is going to be really disingenuous because it's going to count the Thursday Amazon showing, which actually outsold the entire weekend of the Fantastic Four. Just for numbers there. So, but the Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday numbers will all be put together, and it's going to look like it was this huge Friday, and it won't be.
Yeah, I mean, it seems, anecdotally, I'm in a biased circle of nerds, but it seems like people are excited about it. I just don't know how it's going to do punctuating the casuals,
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, Superman is the most recognizable hero on the planet. Unfortunately, they took the S out of the shield. It's just a swipe across now. But why are you growling at that?
I mean, I think that, I don't know, man. I would wonder at this point if Batman or Spider-Man don't outrank him now.
Spider-Man doesn't even outrank Venom or Deadpool at this point.
That seems hard to believe.
So there are more Venom fans of just the character than there are of Venom fans of the comic book or the movies. Like Venom is a brand unto itself. And
sure.
Deadpool's pretty similar with that. But like Superman is the first superhero. Like Superman is like first in, best dressed. Like if you hold up the Superman symbol, everybody knows what that is. Same with Batman.
Yeah, but I mean, I would be curious like when the last time like Q-score ratings were done on them, because I would have to imagine that at this point Batman has outpaced. I mean, Superman has an iconography, but like also hasn't been culturally relevant in a long time. Like I don't know. I'd be curious.
I'm asking ChatGPT right now.
Oh.
Let me see. I said, can you give me the Q-score ratings between Batman and Superman?
That's funny. I was doing the same thing.
It says they're not publicly available, but they're giving me Batman v Superman, the show.
Great.
Yeah, so it doesn't help.
Oh, well.
Thanks for failing ChatGPT.
Grok would have done it for you. That's what you get for cheating on Grok.
Grok would have done it for me and then said something anti-Semitic.
It does say with Superman, right. And again, this is with Batman too, like the broad insights. His S emblem is universally recognized even in cultures where he's seldom seen on screen.
That's fair.
And he's the ultimate archetype. Whose his essence he's an aspirational thing. And again, it's known that I think Batman is the most overrated, not popularity, but as far as what he does, is the most overrated superhero in the history of superheroes.
Plus, when Superman lost to Batman in Batman v Superman, all those like superhero champion shirt Superman just got donated to third world countries. So
that's great.
Anyway, all right, let's rate this motherfucker. So, okay, Kenny, we've kind of changed up the ratings. So we always do out of 10 for movies and out of 5 for TV shows, but then I always come up with something
just north
snarky
of Cincinnati.
of like what the 10 is.
Every
So
Sunday on
for
Apple
this week,
Podcasts,
it's out of
YouTube,
10. Jimmy
Spotify,
Olsen is
Google
drooping Podcast.
Podcast.
How,
Our website,
Sarah, what do you give it?
anywhere podcasts are downloaded.
So I originally had a 4 out of 10, but again,
To find more
as I've
information
calmed
about the
down a
show,
little
visit
bit
us
from my
at
anger, and again, I was very angry with
Follow
this
us on
movie
Facebook and
because it hurt
Instagram
me.
at Infamous Podcast to keep up with the show.
Not because it was terrible,
We also have a
but
Patreon.
because of the issues that James Gunn continually has.
We have some great
I actually
rewards for our
bumped that up
patrons.
a point, and it's a 5 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Bring you more of the content you
Kenny, how about you, buddy?
Music for this podcast is provided by Michael Hibbert.
Well, I did state
So,
earlier
whenever you're listening
today
to
on
us,
social
have a great
media
day,
that I think this
night,
might be my
evening,
favorite James Gunn
weekend,
movie now.
whenever it is. And we'll see you next time.
You know,
Thanks for
I need
listening.
some. You know, there's always recency bias. I need to let it percolate, watch it another time or two, just to see how it settles in. But you know, my gut says that I want to give it an 8.
And your head
really like
says...
My head says that I'm probably recency bias, like overrating it a little bit, and it'll probably settle at a 7.
Yeah.
But
fair. Well, I'm putting 8.
you
That's your flash reaction there.
Yep.
So, yeah. No, that's
So
great.
it hasn't even been 24 hours yet. So
Same, yeah. I went with the 4.89. I had it at a 5 coming out, and then it just took a little bit off just as I thought about some of the things that made me angry.
Yeah.
Not even. Let me rephrase that. It's not the things that made me angry. It was the things that disappointed me.
I was angry.
Yeah.
I was really angry. I will admit I was angry.
But,
The only thing I was angry about that was a waste of my time was the fucking monkeys. Just the thought of that makes me want to punch James Gunn in the face. But most everything else that made me angry, other than the humor didn't make me angry. It's just eye rolling.
mhm.
It was the moments where I saw what this movie could have been, and James Gunn couldn't get this away. That's why I was angry, because I thought this could have been a really, really spectacular movie. I'm going to be curious to see, because I've revisited other movies that I've rated this year, and some have gone down. I'm really curious to see when this comes out on streaming and me watching it again. If my rating will go up or down, like how it's going to affect it. I'm very curious about that.
Yeah. Hey, Kenny, just so you know, I have only given no movies an 8 or higher yet this year.
okay. I was kind of curious. Like, part of me was like, I need to go through and see because like a number like that doesn't mean anything unless you have other numbers to compare it to. So it's like, if you're not even fully exploring the scale, then if you're giving a 4.85 out of 8, which is basically what you're doing, then like you're at that point you're giving it an above 50% score.
Well, it's at a 10
because you're not even using the whole scale. Well, I know, but if you've never given one over an 8, you're not using 9 or 10. So the best movie you've seen has been an 8.
Well, no, the best movie I've seen has been a 7.75. Wait, hold on. Hold on. No. I'm sorry. One movie has an 8. It's over an 8. It's Sinners.
That's
I was
going to say
Mickey 17 is my second favorite movie this year.
So I have 3 movies that are 8 or above. It's Sinners, King of Kings, and F1.
Yeah, so you're that would put Brian's score at 60%.
So I mean, but here's the thing: is I don't rate the movies against each other, and I know I know what you're saying. Like on that sliding scale, like very few things to me are like 9 or 10 worthy. I think I gave a 9 like 2 years ago.
I don't know.
I do not. 9 for me is a great movie that maybe misses the mark on a small thing or two that I can overlook, but or is a great movie, but I'm probably not going to rewatch it. And then like a 10 is going to be like this movie was excellent. I've got no complaints. It's infinitely rewatchable. It's, you know,
See,
I'm
for
gonna
me,
rock it.
that's still like an 8.
Then what's a 10? I mean, what
I
would
don't know.
qualify as a 10 for you?
Because I don't know because I've never seen it.
See, so that makes an 8 a 10 for you then.
Maybe, yeah.
So you're rating on an 8-point scale. You're cheating.
I'm cheating. So,
I find it funny that my 2 highest rated movies last year, 2 of my 3 were animated movies that were I think I gave 0.5. Wild Robot and Inside Out 2.
Oh, Wild Robot was sick.
Dude, Wild Robot was amazing, and I didn't watch it until this year, so I didn't get a chance to rate it last year.
Yeah, but it probably would have gotten a 4.
No, it probably would have been. honestly, that would have definitely been over an 8, like for sure. Like, so that would have been in one of my top movies of last year. But yeah, all right. Well, hey, thank you for like doing this last minute. I always appreciate you coming on. We should definitely do it again sooner than 4 years ago.
Sure.
So.
The problem is that I don't see a lot of the pop culture movies. I don't see a lot of movies when they're fresh anymore because I need to get a babysitter to go to a movie.
We don't need to talk about movies. We can talk about all sorts of fun things, like like we can talk about how the fact I'm out of the toy game and I'm getting rid of all my stuff.
Yeah, you're growing up.
Except
right in front of our eyes.
Well, no, not everything. I'm still keeping like all of the Nightwings and all of the Cyclopses and all of the Kyle Rayners and all of the Terry McGinnises.
Terry McGinnis.
Yeah, Batman Beyond.
Yep.
So, but anyway, all right. Is there anything you want to pitch before you go?
I mean, not really. If you're in the Fairfield area, come by the toy department, say hey. Other than that, I don't think there's anything exciting happening yet, but there might be something on the back burner I'll come on and talk about when it's time.
Oh yeah, we definitely need to talk about that resolution when it happens.
Well, this is something different. This is something you don't know about yet that I can tell you when we get off here.
Okay, but we have to talk about that other thing too, and I'll wear my shirt while we're recording.
Okay.
Which you know what? I think I'm going to AEW both nights when it's in town, and I may be close to the camera. So I'll wear my Kennyverse shirt again. Oh, I said.
No.
So, anyway, all right, Darryl. Any last words?
Nope.
All right, definitely go see this movie. I think this is like one of the better superhero movies that's come out in the last 5 years. Even though I was disappointed by it, I would still say go see it because it's Superman. So.
Well, that's what I've told people. I said, despite what I think of it, I know, again, I can separate. I know people, just as much as I love Man of Steel, I know the reasons people don't like it. I understand it. And I could see people liking this movie. And even me, it's, as I thought about it, it wasn't as horrible as I expected. I was more, like you said, yes, I was angry, but I was more disappointed. So if you're a fan of Superman, if you're a fan of superhero movies in general, I would absolutely go see this, no matter what anybody says.
Yeah,
I would go see this.
I could also understand why people don't like Man of Steel because it was directed by a cinematographer. So, on that note, thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week. Thank you for letting us take a week off. We're coming back to talk about Murderbot the last 3 episodes. So, yay. All right. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
See you.